Frankly, we were a tad concerned with your performance history against a deal of this size.
But after meeting you two face to face, we feel like we're in good hands on this one.
We won't let you down, sirs.
Not to mention your bid was far too attractive for us to pass up.
Hello and welcome to A Day in Film. Today's film in question is War Dogs, directed by Todd Phillips and starring Jonah Hill and Miles Teller. So I went into this movie knowing nothing about it. I had read the little brief description on Hulu, and it is a movie about arms dealers during the Iraq War, I want to say. And instantly I thought back to Lord of War, which is a Nicolas Cage movie, which is actually quite good. I remember liking that movie quite a bit. So I was just hoping this movie would be on par with Lord of War. And I haven't seen many Todd Phillips movies outside of, The Joker. I hear that the first Hangover is funny enough. The second one, tapers off after that, whatever. But in this movie, it feels like he's just aping a bunch of things from other movies. And it's not to say it's bad, because the movie is quite cohesive and I enjoyed it. And what it is aping are good aspects, but it just doesn't feel like there's an original voice behind it. There are things that, just from The Joker, that's my only thing I'm basing it off right now, that I kind of expect from Todd Phillips, like the really great cinematography. This movie is shot really competently. Good use of music. A lot of this movie's score isn't original music, it's just music kind of thrown on top of things, but it fits pretty well with what's happening. It feels pretty appropriate. Just little things like that. I think they really feel like Todd Phillips, even though most of those things don't happen in The Joker. But it's a biopic, so I can't really summarize the plot. I can't summarize the plot of real events. But it follows these two guys, Ephraim and David, Jonah Hill and Miles Teller respectively, and they start up an arms dealing company, and you follow their rise and fall from power. And I think where the movie really hit its stride was in that kind of maybe an hour in, where they're both kind of new to it. As soon as they do the big deal, which I won't get into specifics quite yet, but as soon as they do the big deal, I think the movie kind of takes a down toll, because when they're just jumping from contract to contract, it's it's like, oh, what's it going to be next? Oh, this time it was Berettas, and they have to go through the triangle of death to get their Berettas out. It's that kind of thing, And this movie, again, it just apes so many things. It apes a lot of things from Lord of War, the narration over it. It apes a lot of things from Wolf of Wall Street as well. Again, with the narration and the freezing on the frame and talking, narration over it from Miles Teller. Things like that. And it's used well enough in this movie, but again, it doesn't feel like Todd Phillips. I feel like I could make this movie. Not to stroke my own ego or anything, but it almost just seems like copying work. And the story that's being adapted is interesting, and one thing I have to credit is the acting, because Jonah Hill plays this really obnoxious, arrogant asshole really well, and Miles Teller too plays this dude kind of over his head, slowly trying to get into the business kind of thing pretty well too. And when they're just kind of dudes doing these kind of lower deals, and they're faking documents for this big deal, it's things like that where the movie really hits its stride. And when they're in Iraq for the end of the first part of the movie, I guess, I think the little slide in words on the thing, little quotes from the characters, I think that was pretty unnecessary. I don't think it really added much to the movie. I just can't say much about this movie. It was just solid. More than anything, it was just good. I enjoyed watching it. It was pretty funny when it needed to be. The story did feel like a proper rise and fall. And again, I was just comparing it to Lord of War most of the time, and it has those same pitfalls that Lord of War had. But I think Lord of War is still more interesting because Nick Cage, as an actor, is better than Miles Teller and Jonah Hill kind of combined, because he just has that screen presence. And I know the whole point is that it's these 20-something-year-olds almost had a $300 million deal with the Pentagon, and that's kind of the point of the story. But still, Jonah Hill and Miles Teller just aren't super convincing, which again, I just said it, but I know that's the point of the characters. But the movie is also surprisingly colorful. Again, the cinematography, I have to credit, is very good looking. Todd Phillips definitely knows what he's doing with the camera. because there are some very beautiful shots in this movie, even though a lot of it is like grimy, kind of crappy Eastern Europe. And I mean, for what they do get out there, like the shots, I think they're pretty good. And this movie also struggles with characters, because outside of like the main two, like Ana de Armas is in this movie. She's David's wife. Her name is Iz. And she is like the most generic, like, wife to the criminal character ever. Like, she's just like, why are you hiding these things from me? You can't keep lying to me. That kind of thing. She's literally just that character. She never changes. She changes at the end when he goes, I don't want to be an arms dealer anymore. You know, that kind of thing. If that's how she was in real life, then, you know, you can't really change it. But I feel like a lot of it is already dramatized, so why not dramatize it a little more to make it more interesting, you know? Jonah Hill, his character, Ephraim, really great. Slowly finding out that he's like a master manipulator kind of thing. Really enjoyed that. And again, a lot of the credit does go to Jonah Hill's acting performance, and just to Jonah Hill in general, because he is a very fun person to watch act, and especially the way he delivers his dialogue in this movie. He is like really trying to convince you. He's like, oh, come on, bro. It's just like little things like that. I just really enjoyed his performance. Miles Teller less so, because he feels almost like an audience surrogate. He's just so boring compared to Jonah Hill, because Jonah Hill's eccentric in comparison. And I mean, that character I'm thinking of right now, who's also in the movie, Bradley Cooper's character, Henry, he is incredibly boring. I kind of expected him to do more in the movie. And again, I know you know, it's a biopic, so you can't really just add stuff on because you want to. But I think it was just kind of, he was in the movie for like 4 scenes. He doesn't really do anything. He offers David money at the end, and then that's kind of it. I just wish a couple more characters did more things other than Jonah Hill and Miles Teller's character. Because it feels like they had good potential, especially with some of the things that they do in this movie that they did in real life, obviously, as well. I don't know. I just wish this movie were kind of better, and that is not to say that it was bad, because I still did really enjoy it. But I mean, that's all I really have to say. Go watch War Dogs on Hulu. It's worth your time, I'd say. This is a good, like, watch. You don't have to rewatch it. It's not like a cinematic masterpiece or anything. This is just a good movie. But yeah, that's all I have to say. Hope you have a wonderful day, and I will see you in the theaters.